Where the river ends, mid-fall against precious stone, nature's curtains part for the evening light to show. Kirishima thinks he's being shaken awake, but as the movement becomes violent, he sees it's the earth that's moving. He lifts himself to his knees, Bakugo beside him already assessing the situation. Earthquake. Something about the rise and fall felt different than the trembling he was accustomed to.
Must be.
It feels different. He realizes Bakugo may have felt less earthquakes than he has, at least from solid ground. He keeps his voice loud, the others are awake and shouting, and the wind is rushing in his ears. It's like the ground is swelling, not shaking. Bakugo pauses and looks up at the sky.
Storm, then? Now that you mention it, it's more like that. If the ground were a boat, that is. A malleable boat.
Kirishima nods. Bakugo makes his way past him, arms outstretched for balance, avoiding the swinging branches and leaves and forest debris. Kirishima follows him with a bit more difficulty.
It's moving.
What? Kirishima nods at Mina. There are branches sticking out of her wild hair, and he snorts a little. She gives him a grumpy morning scowl, confused.
The island is moving.
Bakugo looks back at both of them.
What's so funny?
Kirishima bites his lip between his teeth, shaking his head. Nothing. What?
The island is moving. That's why Endeavor didn't find it again. It fucking moves.
Kirishima's eyes widen. He looks out at the patch of sea Bakugo was inspecting, and sure enough, there's a telltale view of waves and clouds passing by. Not fast, but definite.
You've got shit all in your hair.
Ugh. Mina runs her fingers through the tangles, shaking her head. Kirishima laughs again. Shut up, Kiri.
Listen up. The island's moving. We're gonna sit tight until it stops.
How is it moving?
Dunno. Maybe the island's loose. Maybe it follows a current.
Let's have a look at the maps. If there's a current around here, we might be able to see the island's path. It's a far shot, but it's worth a look. Kirishima sits down as they spread a map out between them. The island's movement is making his stomach turn. He looks around at the trees swaying and the little rocks bouncing and rolling across the ground. Even the stone wall a little ways away is shifting, the massive plated stones grinding against one another almost rhythmically. I don't see anything. The island is starting to become still again. Must not be charted. Or it's magic. Ojiro, is this anything like Hagakure's voodoo shit?
I bet she heard you call it shit just now.
Mina makes a sound in her throat, then clears it. I meant that in a respectful way, of course.
Of course. I wouldn't know anyways.
Sorry to interrupt. Shoji's petting the feathers of his blackbird perched on his shoulder. He looks ruffled and tense.
Tokoyami says the bridge has fallen.
Kirishima's stomach goes into a little knot. How would they get back? He looks to Bakugo and sees the rest of the crew is looking to him for guidance as well. His face doesn't falter, though.
We'll figure it out. Let's just hope it doesn't move again while we're at something dangerous. Worry about transport once our arms are full of gold.
Right. Kirishima nods along with the crew, spirits lifted easily by their captain's words.
Onward, then. We're looking for a river.
They walk through the strange, moving forest. Kirishima is surprised, but he sees some birds up in the trees, and there were quite a few spider webs they had to duck through as well. Slowly, the island seems to be garnering life. We must be close to the water, then. Fresh water. Sero flicks a bug off his arm. How's it fresh on an island moving in the middle of the sea, though? I think I've stopped thinking so hard about it all. Maybe there are things that just won't make sense until we see the full picture, or they'll never make sense. Either way, we just have to move forward. That's the right idea. No use worrying, I suppose. With this line of work, the only certainty is unexpected death. Kirishima laughs a little. As frightening a thought as that may be, it was something he realized he accepted long ago, even if he didn't consciously do so. Water! Mina's already on her knees with a handful in her palms. It's sweet. Sweet? Should you be drinking it? It's so pure. Mina's wiping her hand across her mouth. Should we purify it? Hagakure gave me some powder just in case. I can't explain it, but I know it's good water. Ojiro squints his eyes at her. What if it's poison to make you think that, or bewitched? Mina's eyes go wide. Let me eat the powder. Give me your tin, I'll mix some in. Ojiro makes his rounds. Kirishima watches as the yellow powder fizzes into nothingness. He takes a sip. It's still sweet, like Mina said. He understands her words. Its clearness is undebatable. They follow the river as it trickles into growth until there's a proper flow to it. Kirishima thinks he even spots fish at one point, but despite the lack of food, he doesn't feel hungry. He feels energized, in fact. It was really good water, he supposes. He's staring at the stones below the river, almost mesmerized in the flickering color beneath the flow when Bakugo catches his hand. He looks up unexpectedly, wondering what must be happening, but Bakugo only gives a little smile and walks forward. Kirishima feels his face redden, and he intertwines their fingers. He glances back at the crew following behind. Most are off in their own thoughts, taking in the steady strangeness of their surroundings, but Sero makes an obscene gesture with his fingers. Kirishima winks at him and turns around.
Maybe the river will go to a pond. We could take a dip.
That'd be refreshing.
We have until evening. It's barely noon, I'd say.
Evening. Then Kirishima remembers the poem. Right. That part seems pretty clear.
Let's keep following this for a while.
And so they do. The river grows wider and wider, and the sounds grow louder. It must be going to a waterfall, Sero shouts over the roaring sound. Bakugo smacks his head.
Of course, we have to go down.
I am not going down a waterfall.
We'll find another way down, just halfway. Come on.
Bakugo lets go of Kirishima's hands as they veer into the forest. Ahead of them, Kirishima sees the sky open up, the spray of the waterfall rising high. There are sloping hills before them, and despite the steepness, the going looks easy enough if they watch their footing.
Midfall against the precious stone. How the hell are we supposed to get behind it?
Behind? Oh, of course. What about the light show?
We won't go in tonight. We'll stake it out first.
Kirishima's thighs are shaking from the decline. The roar of the waterfall seems almost distant when Bakugo leads them out of the forest again. But the sight before him revives him. They traveled down from the waterfall's mouth, it seems. The slope of the rock beside it wound on both sides, bumping awkwardly on the side opposite to them. There's a strange rock or branch of some sort winding out through the waterfall and sticking into the air, swaying in the wind. It looks ethereal the way it curls and twists in the breeze. The waterfall powers down into a pond, a rainbow sparkling in its mist. The water rushes around the rocks below and calms down as it finds its way. They walk around the waterfront now, the leaves around them towering as tall as they themselves.
We'll camp around here. Take care where you walk. If you find anything strange, report it. Keep an eye on the waterfall in the evening from wherever you are. And meet back after sunset.
Ojiro leaves his powder by the main camp for the crew, and Kirishima takes another drink before he sets out on his own. He would leave Bakugo and Mina alone for the mapping. He was curious, of course, but he knows his questions could always wait until they finished their concentration. He chooses a spot on the opposite side of their decline, with a good view of the waterfall. He notes that they could probably climb the rock, or branch as he thinks it is now, that juts through the waterfall's center. It seems to be attached at the cliffside, so it probably runs behind the waterfall enough for them to traverse it. He pokes around the area, not finding much besides more large spiders and some small mammals darting around. There's a cave behind him that seems to push out a wind of hot air now and then, but the ribbed curve of it inside seems that it leads nowhere. Kirishima wouldn't go in alone anyways. As the evening approaches, Kirishima keeps his eye on the waterfall. The sun casts a glow over the water, lighting everything orange, but nothing looks strange. He enjoys the view silently, hugging his knees to his chest. How many had watched this sunset, he wonders. How many from where he's sitting? He could very well be the first. His stomach flips with the adventure of it, and he smiles to himself. He waits until the sky is barely filled with light, and then he stands to return to camp. He stretches his arms. The moon is already high and bright in the sky, so he can make his way without worry. He's walking down the uneven slope when he hears a sharp gasp and a groan. He pauses, but hears nothing after that. He moves quietly, pushing aside the large leaves ahead of him. There's another muffled sound, and before his realization fully hits him, he sees Hatsume's legs tangled up around Mina's head, hands deep into her curls. Kirishima nearly gasps himself and fumbles backwards as silently as he can, face hot. He should have expected to walk in on someone sooner than later, but he still feels embarrassed. He keeps pressing his fingers to his hot cheeks as he gets to the camp. There's already a fire, and he can smell fish roasting over it too.
Finally. Thought you got lost.
Nah, just late. Sorry.
If you're late, you don't get fish.
But Sero hands him one anyways. Kirishima laughs. Nothing on my end. There was a cave that let out hot air, but it's not too unusual. Maybe the island has volcanic activity.
Same for us, there's nothing.
Kirishima sits down next to him and starts to eat. Maybe we have to go in. Bakugo nods at him from across the fire.
We'll have to go through the water. Maybe then we'll see the hint more clearly. Fuck Might for making this so hard to think about.
Bakugo clicks his tongue, but in his eyes Kirishima sees his love for the challenge.
Just waiting on Mina and Hatsume now.
Kirishima feels his cheeks heat up again. I don't think they ran into anything important. Were you talking to them? I ran into them, yeah. Bakugo catches on immediately and snorts, but Sero just nods.
Rest well tonight. We're getting closer. Sero, gather everyone's points for the map, and check them in the morning with Mina and Ojiro. We'll head into the waterfall mid-morning.